Thank you all for coming. With a quick show of hands, how many of you were here the last time? Just so I know, can you fill me in on how many? Because I am on the speaker screen and can't see everybody, just generally speaking.
So I see about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, but then there's some with videos off, so 10.
Okay. All right, so I'll just quickly review. MHA Feldenkreis was a brilliant man, and he was an innovator in the movement industry. He had a black belt in judo. He was a trained engineer and physicist, just highly educated, extremely well-read, and very interested in human potential and the ways in which people are able to improve themselves by learning. So he had a catastrophic injury to his knee that it was suggested to him that he may lose his leg. And as a consequence of that injury, he spent, I think, about 6 months in his bed trying to figure out how he could save his leg. And so he developed this whole method of learning to help him. He had a need and he solved his own problem. And in doing that, he's provided the way for all of us to learn that for many things, we have the ability to solve our own difficulties because the brain learns, and the brain continues to learn from the time we're born until the time we take our last breath. As a consequence of that, people worldwide have become very interested. There have been articles in the New York Times. There was a recent article about a month ago in the Washington Post. If you do an internet search and you have subscriptions to those publications, you can probably find those articles so that you can read them for yourself. But I'll just briefly go over a few of the basic principles for the people who are new, who were not here the last time. One of the principles is that the primary principle is that the mind controls the function of the brain. I mean, we know this intellectually, but we don't really know it experientially, perhaps. And so if you have difficulties with shoulder pain or sciatic pain, or you have TMJ, or you've had a joint replacement surgery, all of these traumas or experiences have a learning aspect to them. You have either learned something that led you to the injury, unless it was a catastrophic sudden thing, or you have developed a habit that has created the issue that's requiring you to then have the knee replacement or shoulder replacement. So what we do with the Feldenkrais method is that we take your attention to things that you do well. Learning is accomplished in small incremental pieces. We all started in kindergarten or first grade, learning the smallest little things that then compounded upon each other, so that each of us has now gotten to the place where we are today in terms of our knowledge of our world and the way in which we live. The Feldenkrais method takes those ideas and applies them to your physical self. Now, granted, how can you separate your physical self from your emotional self or from your spiritual self? And we are not able to do that. So his belief was that improving one part of the self, the entire self improves. Improving one part of the brain, the function of the entire body improves as a result. And it's true. If you look at it just as a construct of guy wires, our tendons and our bones that get moved, what is it that creates the impulse to move? Our brain has to give a signal, and it gives a signal through our nervous system that then directs us to move. But the way we move is individuated, which is why you can see someone walking from 5 blocks away or however far you can see, and oh, that is George, or that's Frida. I know that person. And you know that person because the way they move is as unique as their fingerprint. The way you move and be in yourself is just unique. There's no one like you. So consequently, there is no right way to practice this method. There is your way. It's not prescriptive. We do not tell you hold your head this way. We do not say move your arm in a particular how can I say it, prescribed way. We tell you to find your own easy way. So something that you'll need to remember, particularly if you're a person who struggles with pain, is that you will need to go slowly. The slowness really matters because that's when your attention goes to the places where where it's easy for you to move. And if you're moving slowly, you can immediately feel the place where you start to get into difficulty. Now, if you're like me, you would be prone to kind of push through that because you think there's a goal. Well, the goal with the Feldenkrais method is for you to become aware of yourself. So if you come across a place like that where you're feeling uncomfortable, you stop and then you go back to where we started. You will find that your range of motion will improve over the course of the lesson because you have paid attention and because your brain has learned how to move yourself in an easy way. Part of moving in an easy way is to keep the movement small. I told the group that was here the last time, the universe that opened for me when I started working with this method was when the trainer who trained me said on the second or third day, do the movement in such a small way that if somebody were looking at you, they would think you were not doing anything at all, but that you can feel it in all of yourself. So I would ask you to start with that idea, not looking at somebody on the screen, just being in tune with yourself, keeping the movement small and easy in the pain-free range of motion. If you find that you cannot do what I ask in a small, easy, pain-free way, then do it in your imagination. We do have lots of research, neurological research, that shows that people who rehearse movements, who close their eyes and sense themselves in their imagination doing those things, improve their function. Because again, what improves is your brain, and your brain is what controls your process and processing that information through your nervous system. So when the path is clear, the movement is easier. And that's what we hope to achieve here today. The third thing I'd like you to remember is to relax yourself as much as possible. I'll ask you to pay attention to where you start to feel tension, where you feel difficulty, and not allow yourself to go there. Most of us try to push through things because we have things to do. So just relax. Any place where you feel tension, you reduce your effort to try to find a way to release any tension that you're sensing and feeling, and do not push yourself beyond that point. And the last thing is the rest piece. The rest is essential. The rest is the place where your brain starts to put together the pieces that are particular to you. So you will want to rest. You do not need my permission to rest. If you do one movement and you say, oh, this is exhausting, I'm overwhelmed, I felt so much, you just rest and then come back when you're ready. Rest matters. And the more we study rest and sleep and brain function, we find that rest really is an essential component to wellness and healthy living. So that being said, go ahead and bring yourself to a sitting position. If you're not sitting upright, that's okay. You can imagine or sense yourself. And close your eyes so that you're not distracted by anybody else for right now. And just sense and feel how you are in your sitting today. Notice your comfort level with your sitting. Where does your attention go? What do you notice about the way you are sitting in your chair? Start to notice how your pelvis sits on the chair, and just sense and feel if you're sitting a little to the right or a little to the left of what you would consider your middle. Can you feel those 2 points of contact? Notice which one feels like it's heavier on the chair, which one feels like it's lighter, which one feels like it's a little lifted. maybe a little more forward. Does one knee feel like it's in front of the other? Without changing anything, there is no right way of being, there's just your way. And as you sense and feel yourself in this preliminary investigation, you'll have an opportunity to check in with yourself at the end to see what has changed. Sense and feel how your right foot makes contact with the floor. And if you were to have a footprint on the floor, what would your footprint of your right foot look like? Where would it be dark? Where would it be a little bit lighter? Where would there be just nothing because you have space under a certain part of your foot? Where do you sense your toes pointing on that right foot? Where's your heel? Is it inside your knee or on the outside of your knee? Is it behind your knee or in front of your knee? And then take your attention to the left sole of your foot and just sense and feel the ways in which that foot rests on the floor in a different way than the right foot. Not because you're going to try to make it the same, but because you are just going to notice what's different about you through the sole of the left foot. Where do your left toes point? Where's your heel? Is it inside your knee or outside your knee? And then take your attention back to your pelvis. And just notice if anything has changed in the way you feel that you are sitting on your chair, just because you paid attention to your feet. Now sense and feel how your head floats at the top of your spine. And then from the base of your skull, trace the line down through your neck, paying attention to each vertebra that you can sense. And then stop when you get to the place where your neck joins your shoulders. And just sense and feel where your right ear is, how close it is to the right shoulder. And then sense and feel the left ear. Is there more space between your left ear and your shoulder than your right ear and your right shoulder? How is that different? And then go back to your spine and travel down through your spine between your shoulder blades slowly in the direction of your pelvis, just noticing where you have a clear sense of the line of your spine and where you seem to lose track of information. And then maybe where you pick up your awareness again, down through your ribs, to the space between your ribs and your pelvis, and down through your pelvis, all the way down to your tailbone, and down toward the floor, so that if your sits bones and your tailbone were legs of a stool, where would the line from your tailbone go relative to the lines of your two sits bones? Does it tuck forward? Does it move a little more towards your right foot or your left foot? Is it reaching behind you? And then just very gently and very slowly and comfortably lift your head and eyes to look up toward the ceiling and just open your eyes and see the spot where your eyes rest on the ceiling. And then return your eyes and your head to your start position facing the front and relax. Now, do that many times, just lifting your head slowly. And then you pause at the top wherever it's comfortable, and then return to your start position and rest. Making sure that you're not stretching or straining. You keep your neck and your jaw relaxed. And those of you who were here last time, you know that your flexibility is going to improve automatically as you learn how you move yourself. And as you look up, sense and feel how the shape of your lower back changes. Notice if your tailbone lifts, does it up? Does it shift to the right or the left? And check in with your breathing, making sure that your breathing is uninterrupted, because you know that when you hold your breath, it's an indication of strain. But see if you can exhale as you look up. And just see the place on the ceiling that you can see where there is no strain anywhere. And remember that place. And see if you can, if you're not already, start to arch your back a tiny little bit, just fractional, and see when you arch the back, how the force of that arching, the gentle movement of arching, translates up through your spine. And notice, does it deviate off to the right? Does it deviate off to the left? Relaxing your jaw and your tongue. And the next time that you raise your head and arch your back a little bit, look down in the direction of the floor with your eyes, just to see how that changes the movement. So that your head is raising and your back is arching a little bit, but your eyes are looking down. Go very slowly. This movement will become easier and more comfortable, especially if you're having some issues with sciatic pain. You want to go very slowly here. See if you can sense and feel what's happening around your right hip joint as you lift your head and lower your eyes. Notice if your tailbone feels like it twists to the right or to the left. And sense that your movement of your head and your neck is limited because your eyes are looking down. And see if you can soften your eyes, keeping them kind of doughy, if you will. Relax your neck and relax your shoulders. And now at the same time, raise your head and your eyes to look up toward the ceiling and see how much farther on the ceiling you can see now. And notice if your back is arching more easily. without overstretching in your neck. And then just slide back in your chair and rest. And bring yourself forward in your chair. And now, very slowly, start to lower your head as if you're going to look down toward the floor. And of course, you pause where it's at your limit there, and then return to your start position and rest. And do that many times, making each movement very small, very easy. And notice what happens to the shape of your back as your head goes down. Allow your back to round as the head goes down. Noticing the places where it feels easy for it to round, and maybe where it feels like you need a little more roundness or some WD-40 in there. And exhale as you do each movement. And see if you can relax your neck and your jaw and your shoulders. Feeling the weight of your head, causing your spine to open in the back. And the next time that you lower your head and round your back, try to raise your eyes to look up in the direction of the ceiling. And notice how the movement of your head and your chest is now limited because you're changing the direction of your eyes. Go slowly so that your muscles can relax. Are you breathing? Exhale as you lower your head. And then go back to that movement of raising your head and eyes to look up and arch your back and see how far up you can see on the ceiling now. And see if you can sense and feel that the middle and the upper part of your back are starting to arch a little bit more. And then slide back in your chair and rest. And bring yourself back to your sitting position. And just raise your head and eyes to look up as you arch your back and see how much farther on the ceiling you can see now. And then bring yourself back to the middle and allow your head to hang down so that the chin rests comfortably toward your chest. And just rest in that position and let your eyes close and just sense and feel the distance between your right ear and your right shoulder and your left ear and your left shoulder. Try to relax your neck and your stomach and your shoulders. And with that head resting close to your chest, very gently start to arch your back and return to your start position. Just a tiny little arch of your back. Feeling how as you arch, your pelvis is tilting forward slightly. And that your weight is shifting on your sits bones a little bit forward. And make sure that you exhale as you arch. And keep your jaw relaxed. And your shoulders stay relaxed, reducing any effort that you feel maybe at the top of your shoulders. And then one more time, raise your head and your eyes to look up as you arch your back and feel how your spine arches. And notice how far up you can look now without having any strain at all. And then slide yourself back in your chair and rest. And bring yourself forward in your chair. And just sense and feel how you are in your sitting. Notice what's different. And then very slowly start to lift your head and your eyes to look up while you're arching your back. And then very slowly lower your head and round your back. You're going to do that many times. Slowly lifting your head and your eyes to look up and arch. And slowly lower your head and eyes and round your back. And just sense and feel that your head has weight to it as it's attached to the spine. And that the position of the head alters the shape of the spine. You know, as you continue the movement, you know that when babies are born, they're curled up and they only have one curve in their spine. But as they learn and they grow and they start to lift their head because it's lying on their tummies, that curve in the lower part of the back develops, and the curve at the back of the neck. You're not born with that. You learn how to do that from the time you're very, very tiny. So start to notice as you lift your head, what happens with your shoulder blades. Sense and feel how the right shoulder blade moves as the head lifts and lowers. And feel how your left shoulder blade moves as you lift and lower. And you feel that your shoulder blades move closer together when your head lifts. And they move farther apart as your head lowers and your spine gets round. And as you lift your head and look up, notice what happens with your abdomen. And if you can't feel your abdomen, go ahead and take your hands and put your pinky finger right where your leg joins your trunk and feel what happens to your abdomen as your head lifts and what happens to your abdomen as your head lowers. See if you can feel the place where your stomach relaxes and pushes forward. Sense and feel how that movement of your abdomen forward is maybe a little different on the right side and the left. Feel how your pelvis tilts so that your sits bone, your weight shifts forward on the sits bones and your tailbone lifts a little bit like a scorpion. And your chest lifts and moves forward when you're looking up. And notice, when do you get taller? And then take your attention to the lowering of the head and start to notice how your chest flattens. And your breastbone, your sternum slides down towards your navel. And feel how your shoulders round and the space between the shoulder blades get wider. And when you lift, the shoulder blades move closer together. And feel how your pelvis rocks on the chair. Feeling how your spine is pulled down so that you get shorter when your head lowers. But when you arch the back and look up, your spine lengthens and pushes your head up. Are you breathing? And when you're satisfied with your own exploration, then you can take yourself back in your chair and rest. And allow yourself really to receive the support of your chair so that it's a true rest, that there's no working in your resting. It's just your time to be at ease. And bring yourself forward in your chair. And either in your imagination or in real life, turn your upper body to the right just to the place where it is comfortable for you, and keep yourself in that orientation of your upper body being turned to the right. Now, if you have sciatic pain or issues with your lower back, you want to go very slowly. Even if you don't have those issues, you want to go very slowly here and start to raise your head and eyes to look up and arch your back, and then lower your head as you round your back, as your upper body is on this slight diagonal to the right. Pause to rest when your head and eyes are lower. And then lift your head and eyes to look up. That slight turning to the right. And start to notice what's happening with your pelvis. Which side of your pelvis could you lift a little bit to make the lifting of your head easier and lighter? If you're not sure, play with it a little bit. Keep yourself turned to the right and lower your head, and then lift your head and try to lift that right sits bone and see what happens. And after you've done that a few times, very slowly, very gradually, very easily, then try to lift your left sits bone up just enough to put a piece of paper as you lift your head and arch your back. And you can feel that those are very different things. Which was easier for you? To lift your left hip up a little bit, the left sits bone, or to lift the right one? Relax your neck. Relax your shoulders so those shoulder blades can glide freely on the ribs as your head lifts and lowers. Relax the muscles of your legs so that you're not overworking. Noticing any place where you feel extra tension, trying to reduce your effort and make the movement gentler and easier. And then just leave that and slide back in your chair and rest. And bring yourself forward in your chair. And turn your upper body in a comfortable way to the left and stay to the left. And then begin that alternating of raising your head and your eyes to look up as you arch your back, and lowering your head and eyes while rounding your back. Making sure that you stay turned slightly to the left. Reducing your effort wherever you feel strain. And start to notice the movement in your pelvis. And as you look up, notice which sits bone becomes lighter. Which one would you lift to facilitate the lift of your head? And play with it, explore. If you were little, trying to figure out how to lift your head, you would be exploring the different ways that your weight could shift in your pelvis. And you would learn pretty quickly that one way is a little easier than the other. But if you're interested, you can try it a few times the way that it feels harder and just sense how that changes you to lift the harder sits bone. Where do you sense and feel that there's a restriction or something that impedes your ability to lift your head and arch your back? And then go to the easy one and just see if it became more easy because you tried it the hard way first. It's all about the learning, not about the doing. So sense and feel yourself as you're lifting your head and arching your back. Feel how your chest lifts. And as your head lowers, feel how your chest sinks. Keeping yourself as relaxed as possible. Moving slowly but with ease, so that it's fluid and comfortable and without work. And when you're satisfied, just leave that and rest. And bring yourself forward. And this time, put your hands on your thighs. You can put them with your palms down, but think about your palms resting on your thighs. So they're not pushing down. You have so many nerve endings in the hands and the fingers. You want to just make sure that they're resting lightly on your thighs so that they can slide as you move. And then very gently and very slowly turn yourself to the right while you arch your back and look up. And then as you lower your head and round yourself, bring your body back through the middle to your start position and turn slowly to the left and arch your back as you bring your head up. Go very slowly and make it very small to start so that you can have a sense of how your spine moves and shifts through all of these positions. Without trying to make it a big thing, just notice how as you move easily, turning to the right and arching and lifting your head and coming through your middle, and then turning to the left to arch and lift, and rounding and coming through the middle. Feel how the weight of your head moves your spine down and that your lower back rounds. And you come through the middle and you turn, but you lift from that arch in the lower back to lift your head up. And the head comes down. Notice for yourself as you turn to the right and arch. Feel the place of the arching and the push up on each side of your spine that allows your head to lift. And then as your head drops and your back rounds and comes through the middle, feel how the weight of you sinks into the chair. And then as you turn to the left, just notice how the turning to the left might be different for you than the turning to the right. And feel how the arch lifts up either side of your spine. How is it different on the left than it is on the right? Do this many times slowly. And start to notice what happens to your weight shifting in your pelvis. Can you sense and feel that when you turn to the right and look up, that the left side of your pelvis gets light and the hip lifts a tiny bit up off the chair? And when you come down, that hip comes down into the chair. And then when you turn to the left and arch and lift, the right side lifts just a tiny bit. Feel what happens with your shoulder blades when you look up to the right. And what happens to your shoulder blades when you look up to the left. What happens to your shoulder blades when you look down as you come through the middle? How much are you able to arch your back now compared to the beginning? Allow yourself to arch as much as you can without straining. Sensing how, as you progress through the lesson, the arch becomes more pronounced and that your head has become lighter at the top of your spine. And also allow yourself to round your spine as much as you're able without feeling any strain. So that you arch and round in a free and easy way. When do you inhale? When do you exhale? And see if you can change your breath. Exhale when you arch your back and lift your head and see what happens. And inhale as your head lowers and your body rounds. Just try that breath. And then change your breath so that you inhale as you arch and lift. And exhale as you soften your chest and round. And see how that's different. And when you're satisfied, or when you're tired and you just want to rest, bring yourself just back to your center and just sit. And think back to the way you were sitting at the beginning of your lesson. And lift your head and your eyes and look to the place on the ceiling where you can see now. See how much farther you can see on the ceiling. Can you feel that your spine arches more easily. And now just relax and feel yourself in your sitting, remembering how you were at the beginning. And sense and feel how your pelvis is resting on your chair. Feel the weight of the right sits bone and the left sits bone. And sense and feel the balance in the place where you are sitting upright on the top of those bones, maybe in a different way than you did at the beginning. And sense your right footprint, where there's contact with the floor, where there's a little less contact with the floor, where there's space. Sense and feel where your toes are pointed on the right. And where is your heel now compared to where it was in the beginning? And feel your left footprint. Where there's contact and less contact and space. And where your toes are pointed on the left. And where your heel is on the left. And then just take your attention to your head floating at the top of the spine and sense and feel the place of rest of your head at the top of the spine. Does your head feel lighter? And in your imagination, just measure the distance between your right ear and your right shoulder and your left ear and your left shoulder. Has that changed for you? And then just one more time, just measure improvement. Lift your head and your eyes to look up on the ceiling, feeling the ease and the arching of your back. And return yourself to your start position. And then if you're able, just bring yourself to stand in front of your chair. And sense and feel how your weight is balanced in your feet. And take a few steps around just for maybe 30 seconds or so, just walking, sensing and feeling what is different for you. And when you're ready, you can bring yourself back to your chair. And that's your lesson for today.